Welcome to Your Music Saved Us, where two friends blast ourselves into the past to relive and recontextualize the alternative Christian music we grew up listening to in the 1990s. My name is Clifton, and Nazi punks fuck off, and Jay is here, and I assume he has a similar feeling.
Yes. Yes, I do. Thank you.
All right. Jay, what are we listening to today?
We are listening to Officer Negative's 1997 debut album, Dead to the World.
Dead to the World. All right, and is this widely available to listen to?
Well, it seems to be now. I don't think it always has been, but it is on Spotify and places, so you can find it pretty easily.
Was this played in your youth group?
No. There's probably a cool youth group somewhere that was playing this. Definitely not mine.
No, definitely not. And of course, this was the other question we always ask, are we getting preached at? Which I feel like is pretty obvious on this one.
Yeah, big time. Like, we have to go pretty far back to find another album where we're getting preached at this much. And I'll be honest, I kind of looked back through our old episodes and I was like, I don't know if we've had one where we've ever been preached at this much. Maybe Focused. Maybe one of those other ones like that.
The Blamed,
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
And we'll get into this, but this music kind of fits that, strangely enough, this style. But yeah, it's been a while since we've had one this preachy.
Yeah, I agree. All right, before we get into it, I just want to remind everyone to visit patreon.com/YMSU to contribute and get extended episodes. We had a new episode up there a couple weeks ago, and we're going to have another one here in the next couple days. Or maybe it'll probably actually already be up by the time you're listening to this, because this won't come out for almost 2 weeks.
True.
So, yes, visit patreon.com/YMSU and help us to pay for hosting this podcast. Thank you. Well, Jay, tell us about Officer Negative.
So, Officer Negative was a Christian punk band from Ventura, California. They started in 1995, and I'll just kind of give you the lineup that carries through to this album we're talking about. So it's Chad Wiggins on vocals, Josh Hanley on guitar, Michael Dragon on drums, and Chris Sahagun, I hope I'm saying that right, on bass. And I'm taking most of this from Wikipedia, also a little bit from the Indie Vision Music website, where they talk just briefly about Officer Negative. So unfortunately, there's not a lot of interviews or other things I could find, but this is enough. Anyway, they recorded a few demos in 95 and 96, which made their way to Kendall Nadeau. He ended up Nadeau. Did I say Nadeau? Nadeau. Maybe that's Nadeau. That's probably right. Thank you. He ended up signing the band to his new label, Screaming Giant Records, and Dead to the World was Screaming Giant's first release.
Cool.
And unfortunately, there's not a lot of other information out there, but I'd just say from looking at the photos, I think the members were quite young when they released this album, like definitely still teenagers. I'd say we're like, 17, 18 kind of thing.
Okay.
One other thing I want to share is this is from the Encyclopedia of Christian Music. Just they had a little bit more, and I'll reference it again later in the episode. But here is what is said in there. It says, Officer Negative is an old school punk band based in Ventura, California. The band has a strong commitment to Christian ministry, stating that, quote, Officer Negative is not a band, it's a ministry. Our focus is spreading the love of Jesus. The group's name derives from the use of the word officer as a verb in punk slang to, quote, officer. The negative means to control or restrict negative influences. So, yeah, that is the background.
The next line is, that said, the group has an angry punk sound.
Yeah.
Which is true. We'll talk about it obviously throughout the episode, but I don't feel like they were really spreading the love of Jesus in this.
Yeah, we're going to get to that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, Jay, how did you find this album?
I was thinking back, and I don't know exactly. I got it sometime around the time it came out. I mean, it was clearly punk.
Yeah.
So I picked it up. I might have
Like,
seen
is
it
it in your
advertised.
store?
I don't know. Or I bought it at Cornerstone one summer, or it was like, I'm also the type that would see shit advertised and order away for it. So who
Yeah.
knows? I might have seen it advertised in HM or something. But I mean, I think eventually it was in our local Christian bookstores, right?
Not mine.
I think.
My
Oh.
Christian bookstore never had Screaming Giant.
Huh. Well, somehow I obtained this, and I'm not sure how. Did you have this back in the day, Clifton?
No.
Okay.
I knew what it was, but mostly from maybe Stuart had it, but mostly I just knew it from HM, I think.
Okay, so you had heard this before we went back and listened to it for this. Maybe. No, this is your first time ever hearing this.
Yes.
Oh, interesting. Okay, well then I'll have more questions for you as we go on, just about like thoughts with this. So
I have them.
okay, good. Yeah, so this was not my like favorite style of music. It's still not, but I appreciated like the aggression, and at the time I liked kind of how in your face the lyrical content was.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like when you had a lot of bands at the time saying like, we're not a Christian band, we're just Christians in a band. This was the exact opposite. Like,
Yes,
we are Christian punks, they even say in one song. So, and I don't know where I fell on that spectrum at the time, but I appreciated this for what it was.
Are there any songs that you remember from back in the day?
JCHC. Oh, yeah.
JCHC. Have you listened to it over the years?
No.
Okay.
I don't think I'd heard this at all since God knows how many years ago, 25 plus years ago.
Okay, that makes sense. So what were you thinking you were about to listen to when you first pushed play on going back to it?
I honestly, and I'm curious your take on this too. My memory of a lot of the Screaming Giant releases is they just didn't sound that great. Like,
right.
Production was kind of shitty and like, it's great. So I kind of thought this would be terrible. And I'll be honest, I was surprised. And honestly, sonically, it wasn't nearly as bad as I was expecting. In fact, I think it sounds better than some of the Screaming Giant releases, at least in my memory. Maybe they're not as bad as I think, but it wasn't awful. There's
some parts, though, that are not good, like that sound pretty bad, I think.
Sure, yeah. And no, I have plenty of things to say about this, but that was a surprise for me. I was like, oh, this is okay. Like, it's not awful.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, anything else you want to talk about before we jump into the songs?
Let's jump in.
All right. Track 1, Don't Turn Away.
And I'll say, as we're jumping into the music of this, like, it's an old school punk album, so we're probably not going to have like a lot of detailed musical analysis. So just, do with that what you will. But I will say this starts with the nice kind of these gnarly punk vocals and these like, and then the band comes in. Clearly this is old school punk from about the first couple seconds. You can tell what you've got with this. And I think by about like 27 seconds in, we've already hit the chorus. So
It took longer than I thought it would, honestly.
Well, and that's one thing that noticed too, is these songs are longer than you'd think for something like this. Yeah, I mean, this song's almost 3 minutes long. A lot of the others are longer. Like, they'll have 3 different verses, a bridge, like, they're more built out. It's not just like Minor Threat or something where you're just like, and done within a minute and a half. Like, it's
right.
It's longer.
I thought that like 2.5 minutes would be a really long song, but it's not.
No.
Yeah, 2.5 minutes is probably like on the shorter side of the average of their songs altogether. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe let's just play some of the beginning of the song.
Every time you take your eyes off God, it's just another time you're beneath the odds. Every time you look the other way, it's just another time that you've gone astray. So you're stopping the life, you just don't know. You're trusting yourself with your living soul. Is it worth all the pain? Is it worth the guilt of turning your back on what is real? Don't turn away from life of God. Don't please yourself.
So, I mean, you've already heard the verse and the chorus at this point, just from that part. So, yeah, you get a pretty good sense of what the band is about, I think, right then.
Yeah, and I think the first verse, first and second verse, whatever you want to call it, before the chorus there, went on maybe a smidge too long. But I think that it has a good rhythm, and then into the chorus. It's a pretty classic thing to do with punk rock. Dun 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 dun. But I think it works really well. It's I wouldn't say it's melodic, but it is rhythmically catchy.
Yeah. They have some songs that are catchier, but this is not bad. And it works fine for what it is, and it's not terrible. Clearly they've been playing together long enough that these songs work pretty well, and for what they are, they're not bad.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's play. There's a bridge part of this, and then we get this nice part where he says, "Jesus help me," that I kind of wanted to play. So I don't know, wherever you want to start, but somewhere into that, and we'll just play through the "Jesus help me" part.
But Satan's crawling up your back and you're blaming everybody but you. You turn your back on God, you say you mess things up, but don't you see the problem is you? Where's your faith? Where's your trust? Just call his name, Jesus. Where's your faith? Where's your trust? Just call his name, Jesus. Help me.
Yeah, so I mean, you can hear the lyrics there, and that's one thing about this album. They're pretty easy to decipher on most of the songs. Mm-hmm. And this is not like the Dingies or something else where it's Christian, sort of, but that's not exactly what we're talking about. No, this is very clear, very Christian, every single song.
Yes, it is. So, should we go back to the music there a second? I had the same kind of wish at the end of the chorus and at the end of that kind of bridge thing that we just heard, where it does this.
Jesus, help
me! They have this kind of screaming part there at the end, and I feel like they give up on the screaming too early. I think if they'd carried out the screaming longer, help me! I think...
Okay, a couple extra seconds.
And maybe had the background vocals drop out and then come back in and for a punch at the end. I just think it could have added quite a bit of rawness and kind of emotion to the song.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's what I just found myself thinking that as I listened to this song over and over. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of just repeats from there, and they're not complicated songs. I think the bridge is the most is kind of the catchy part of this song.
Yeah.
And that's why I kind of want that part to end stronger, is because I think it would have really capped off the emotional feel of this song, kind of, because we get kind of some anger here, but we don't get kind of rawness, kind of like a desperate empathy. And I think that's what they should have been going for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, shall we get into these great lyrics?
Yeah, this is where I figure we'll spend the bulk of the episode anyway. So,
yes. All right. You want me to read the lyrics?
Sure. Why not?
And you want me to read all of them? They're kind of long, actually, on this song.
Yeah, they're long on a lot of them. I mean, that's where I want to give them credit. This is fast-paced, old-school punk rock, but they squeeze quite a bit into each song. They're longer than normal songs, and the lyrics are pretty long on each song. This is this is not just a minute. Repeat the same thing over and over. Hey, shout, whatever, and be done. There is some thought to it. So
there's a couple songs that are that way, but yeah.
Yeah, for the most part though, these are more well thought out, and they've got bridges, they've got those kind of things that longer songs would have.
All right, so I'm going to read these, and if I explode because they use the wrong version of "your" over and over again, I'm going to apologize in advance. All right. Every time you take your eyes off God, it's just another time you're beneath the odds. Every time you look the other way, it's just another time you've gone astray. So you're stumbling through life, you just don't know. You're trusting yourself with your living soul. Is it worth all the pain, worth all the guilt of turning your back on what is real. Don't turn away the life of God to please yourself. You got it all wrong. You won't find a better gift of life in Christ. No, don't turn away. You say you have thought things through. You've made up your mind on what you're going to do. And this whole Christian godlike thing, well, it just ain't for you, and now you're going to leave. So this world has got you down, and Satan's crawling up your back, and you're blaming everybody but you. You turned your back to God. You say you messed things up, but don't you see the problem is you? Where's your faith? Where's your trust? Call his name Jesus. So don't turn away from God. He didn't turn away from you. Even when you're wrong, well, you don't think it's time for you to give yourself to Christ and live a brand new life.
Whew.
Yeah.
That's just the first song.
And we talk about this a lot, Jay. It's just such a negative conception of Christianity, or whatever you want to call, whatever you want to talk about here. But it's just such a negative conception of, like, it's only talking about every time you take your eyes off God, every time you look the other way. So you're stumbling through life. You're trusting yourself. Is it worth the guilt?
Right.
And it's just over and over. That's all the song is about, is saying negative things are because you're not looking at God.
Yeah. You're doing everything wrong.
Literally, that's
on
one
you.
of the lyrics.
Yeah. Like, everything you're doing is wrong because Satan's crawling up your back. You're blaming everybody but you. Don't
And
you
look,
see
people have a tendency to blame everybody but themselves, right?
Sure.
I'm kind of fine with that lyric in and of itself, but it's just stuck within this whole conception of, I feel like if there was a God, he would be bigger than this idea that we're expressing here.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing throughout this album is, like, life without God is bad. You need God. But there's there's no like captivating reason why. It's just like you need him because life is bad. No, like,
right.
He loves you. Life
Yes.
with him is better. There
Right.
is real love out there and forgiveness. Like, there's not a lot of that in this album. It is very much just like, yeah, things are bad. Things will be worse without God. Satan's crawling up your back. He's going to get you if you don't have God. Better turn to God.
Yeah. And one of my favorite parts is this portion here. You say you have thought things through. You've made up your mind on what you're going to do. And this whole Christian godlike thing, well, it just ain't for you. And now you're going to leave. I mean, and they throw that in there, but they never respond to it.
Yeah.
Because then the next line is, so this world has got you down. And then Satan's crawling up your back. But like they have this thing in there. So you say you've thought things through. And then their response to that is basically, I guess, oh, the world's got you down. I don't understand where they're not engaging with anyone here. Once again, if this is a ministry, what's the ministry that's being offered here?
I think they would say, well, we're keeping people from hell. But
yeah, I agree with you. And that's incredibly negative. And like, if that's the whole point, if the whole point of Christianity is to keep people from hell, then what's this all for? You could just not have a hell. You could just not create anything in the first place.
Yeah.
That's just it's so small. It's so pitiful.
They mention Jesus, obviously call his name Jesus in these lyrics, and they're going to say it in probably about every song we go through, but I want you listener, as we're going to think about when you've read the Gospels and other things about Jesus and see if any of the things they're talking about line up with that, because I think you'll find that a lot of these lyrics really don't really fit with the message Jesus was sharing.
True.
This is
But if
much
your
more
only
just...
encounter with the Gospels recently has been what's being preached at you, you probably think this is what Jesus was saying.
Totally fair. Yeah, but I think if you actually read it, this is maybe not the right thing.
Yeah, I agree.
The only other thing I want to say is he says so don't turn away from God. He didn't turn from you even when you're wrong. And I'm like, if God didn't turn away from you, then why do you need to turn to him if he's already there?
Correct. Once again, incredibly small, right? If God existed, God would be bigger than this song imagines him to be.
Yeah. If he's there and he's all loving and he cares for you, then like, yeah, I don't know. It's a little weird, right?
Yeah. And I think buried in this song is kind of this assumption of God needs to break you. You know, life without God is bad because God needs to break you. Which, to be clear, is something an abuser says to an abuse victim. Right? Yeah. That I need you broken so that I can remold you in my image. That's what abusers do.
I've been reading and thinking a lot about religious authoritarian parenting, which is basically what a lot of us were raised with. If you were raised with like Focus on the Family, James Dobson, all that. I know a lot of people listening to this are probably like, oh yeah. But it's the same kind of thing, right? Like it's like you basically have to break the will of the child because obedience is the number one thing in growing up with that. It's not like, it's not stages of development, learning, testing stuff out. No, obedience. Even if it's a 2-year-old and they're defying you, there is something of their sin, carnal nature in there, and you've got to break that out of them.
I was listening to, tell me if this is part of that, but I was listening to, I think it was one of those like former Quiverful, women talking about how she was taught to raise her children, and they would take like months old babies that are learning to crawl, and they would put them on a blanket and tell them not to move. Babies can't, they don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
And if the baby tried to crawl away, they would beat the baby, spank it,
Yeah, if it got around off the edge of the blanket.
Right. Yeah. What the fuck?
Yeah, it's in that Shiny Happy People documentary.
Right. Oh yeah, that is in there too. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Does James Dobson go that far, or is he wait until they get until they're 2 years old before he starts?
Yeah, I think he's more. He's a little more generous, Clifton. He's wait till they're like 2.
Good. Yeah.
I know,
yeah.
but this is
very authoritarian though. That's a good point. This is authoritarian,
and it's about obedience. I think that's a good way to say it. Like it's about obedience rather than anything else, right? That's just the number one thing. Right. You've got to obey. You've got to do what God wants you to do. You've got to kind of submit to these Christian rules. That's the path of salvation, success, whatever.
Yeah, because God isn't like true life. He's just someone who wants you to do what he wants you to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been a great introduction to the ministry that is Officer Negative. So let's move on to the next song, track 2, SWP.
Yeah, so this was I should say this album seemed to have 2 releases. One that came out in 97 and the one that came out in 98. It's the same album. It's just, I think the second re-release of this or whatever, I think it maybe is when they had better distribution. But anyway, on the first version of this, it's called Brainwashed People. But then when it got re-released less than a year later, it was called SWP. Don't know why. It's not like Brainwashed People was a crazy title. So anyway, Who knows? But just for some trivia for you out there, yes, it's got 2 different names. This one is just kind of some distortion, some feedback, and then drums and full band come in. It's got some background vocals at the chorus I kind of
Yeah.
like. It's one of those weird ones where I like didn't think it was that catchy, but I'll be honest, later in the day I found myself kind of humming the chorus. So I don't know. I don't know what that's about, but it's catchier than you think.
I thought the chorus was okay on this one, but actually the part that I really liked for some reason is the third verse.
Okay.
Or at least the verse after the first chorus. But yeah. Should
Well,
we listen to the
Let's
first
play
part
the
here?
beginning so people know
Okay.
what it starts like, and then we can maybe jump to that part.
All right.
Neo-Nazis are all the same. Being up in the show, way to fame. Shooting like Hitler, yelling sky. Oh, God, they saw that night of fire. Nazis picked us up on how to dress, cause your mommy wouldn't do it anymore. It's all our music, right, it shows. What's good in mine, nobody knows.
Yeah, so that's the first two verses, if we want to call it that.
Yeah.
And I think it's fun when the on the second verse there when the background vocals come in. It's pretty good. I will say that, and this is something that all kind of like this, whatever you want to call it, like hardcore punk, old school punk kind of does. They are very bad at getting a good rhythm with their vocals a lot of times. And the lyrics often kind of just seemed shoved into a box.
Yeah. Right.
Like shoved in, and like not like in a fun way where like I often think of Cap'n Jazz, where Cap'n Jazz songs are often overflowing with lyrics, but they're artfully crafted overflowing. It's like it feels like a cornucopia that's spilling out onto the table with lyrics, whereas this feels like you're shoving them into like you're packing to move, and you're shoving lyrics into the box. And by the time you're done, like the box is pretty beat up already, Yeah, that's what, I don't know.
Yeah.
I also want to take a second here to mention the guitar tone because it changes over several songs. And I think this is one of the better guitar tones on the album. I'm just to go back to the beginning again, just for a couple seconds here. It's not great guitar tone, but it's the best on the album, I think, or one of the best on the album. And it's a very kind of old school, like for example, it doesn't sound. A lot of punk bands in the '90s were using either like a Marshall, the model number is called JCM 800, which has like a smoother kind of breakup to it, or more punk bands, and especially towards the end of the '90s, were playing Mesa Boogie rectifiers, and those have a really smooth distortion to them, but it's also like a lot like really kind of distortion. And this feels like someone found the tube amp that like was made in the 50s, like one of the first tube amps, and just like when you first started pushing tube amps too hard and they started breaking up, and like that's what this breakup to me sounds like. I don't know, that's just it's very primitive, which is fine for this kind of music. It's just what it is. Yeah.
I thought even that drum riff into it right there, just to like da da da, just
Yeah.
real loud, going straight in, like it's nice for this style of music. Yeah. In
I
fact, I actually said in my notes, I think this song is kind of the perfect length of song for them. You
Yes.
get in the chorus a couple times. It's a short bridge.
Yes.
You have some extra oomph with the yelling on the last chorus, and it's perfect. And it's only like what, like
2:11.
barely over 2 minutes long.
Yeah. I
This
agree.
is it.
I think this is one of the better songs that we're covering. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's listen to the chorus here and maybe into that third verse here.
The SWP doesn't mean to bring my power. The SWP means stupid white people. The SWP doesn't mean to bring my power. The SWP means stupid white people. Many people love 'cause they're not white. Shows how stupid you really are. This slave thinking been around for centuries. Never has gone too far.
I think I just like the swagger of those vocals because it does feel like it's shoved in, but it's kind of like shoved in and kind of like a ha ha kind of. I don't know. It feels like Johnny Depp doing a pirate kind of shoved in there.
Yeah. I liked when you on the chorus there. It's funny because it's just like the same thing repeated, but
Yes.
they just repeat it the second time with like more background and kind of gang vocals, and it's a good example of like you could kind of make it work.
Yeah.
Like,
Here's the thing, music, especially pop music, which is what I'm going to consider even this and consider it pop music. It's all about repetition with slight changes. And even just that, even just throw in someone having fun screaming something in the background is enough of a change to make it fun.
yeah, and it surprisingly works for this one. So who knew?
I agree. I think the key to this song though is the chorus. So shall we dig into these lyrics?
Yeah, I can read them since you read the last one.
Go ahead.
Neo-Nazis, you're all the same. Being a bigot is your way of fame. Saluting like Hitler and yelling, Sieg Heil. God made us all, and now you defile. Nazis, you ripped us off on how to dress, because mommy wouldn't do it anymore. Steal our music, riot at our shows. What's going on in your mind, nobody knows. And the chorus was, SWP doesn't mean supreme white power. SWP means stupid white people. Beating people up because they're not white shows how stupid you really are. This way of thinking has been around for centuries and never has gone too far. That's that part you liked. Lay down your ignorance, put it at Jesus' feet, cast off your stupidity, realize your beat, ask God to forgive you and change your mind. Do it before you run out of time.
I think the first part of the song we can all agree with, right?
Okay. Yeah. The first
neo-Nazis
verse.
suck for the most part, Yeah.
Yeah. Fair.
Yeah. I do think go ahead. You've got this part highlighted. It's a good part.
Well, it just made me laugh that they said, Nazis, you ripped us off on how to dress because mommy wouldn't do it anymore. Steal our music, right at our shows. And I was like, this is a Christian punk band. Like, if
Yes.
anybody ripped someone off, sorry, but like, they did.
Yeah.
So it's a bit ironic talking about that. Not that
Tell me where
Nazis
where are
have
they
more
from?
ownership. They're from Where
They're
are they
from
from?
California.
Yeah, they're from Ventura, California. So
Okay, they probably grew up in the LA punk scene, and they probably know what's going.
I know it's fair, but it just made me laugh because it's like, I don't know if you have any more claim to punk than Nazis do. Sorry, to be honest. But like, yeah.
That is a good discussion that we can have maybe at the end of this album. But definitely, Nazi punks fuck off, right?
Right, totally.
And I was actually on Reddit the other day, and someone had a really good. It's in r/punk. Someone had a really good explanation of why you couldn't be punk and a Nazi or a fascist. Because being a punk is all about being an outcast, and so how in the world can you be a punk and then just reject outcasts? So yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
But I do love the cause your mommy won't do it anymore. Dress them. Yeah, that's pretty good.
All right, fair.
All right. The other part that you have highlighted is this way of thinking has been around for centuries and never has gone too far. What do you I think they're wrong.
Right. I'm like, actually, it did go pretty far at times. That's a real problem.
Yeah, it has like it's gone pretty far. Depending on how you are we defining too far here as it's never gotten off the ground very much, or too far as in it never went overboard? I assume they mean it hasn't really ever gotten off the ground.
That's how I took it.
Yeah, me too. Okay.
Which,
I mean, both are wrong.
yeah.
Both are wrong. But yeah, it definitely pogroms definitely probably were far too popular. African enslavement is probably far too popular.
Yeah.
Colonialism,
Uh-huh.
far too successful of, and showing up on the shores of people and being like, oh, they're a different color than us. They must be savages. They're probably not even humans. And then wiping them out.
We have the whole like Holocaust itself.
Sure. There's the Holocaust.
you know.
The biggest pogrom.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, yeah.
You know, we have racial tensions in the United States, you know, where literally people have just in mass massacred people of color, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think we can agree. It has gone too far. Yeah. Yeah.
One other part, I didn't highlight this and it didn't occur to me till we're re-listening to it now, but the last verse, he says, lay down your ignorance, put it at Jesus' feet, cast off your stupidity, realize your beat, and ask God to forgive you. In some ways, I feel like that is kind of the core of the album, is like, cast off your stupidity, ask God to forgive you. And I'm like, is that ever going to change anyone's mind? Like, I do not
like
think
if you just
there's
say
one
to people
person that's ever listened to this song that's been like, oh shit, you're right, I am stupid, I need to ask God. Like, that is not the message. You know,
I think
to
it's a
convert
perfectly
people.
fine message, but it's not a message that's ever going to reach them.
Right.
So here's the question. Is this song meant to reach the Nazis? Or is it meant to talk to people who are seeing the Nazis?
I think that's a fantastic question, and I actually think we could ask that about every single song on this album.
Okay.
Not just about the Nazis, but just in general. I think we have, and I'm going to go even bigger. I think we could ask that about a lot of the stuff we cover on this, and a lot of the music of this time period is we
You're
have
right.
stuff that's oriented towards like, this is ministry, but in reality, it's not really. You're right.
But I mean it a little bit differently than that.
Okay. What are you saying?
I mean it more like someone who just saw a Nazi for the first time, you know, and was like, what are these guys talking about? Or, you know, do they have a point? I don't know if they have a point. You know, let me listen to them, right? I mean it more like to those people, right? Like if we're talking to those people, calling the Nazis stupid is in fact a good point, because being a bigot is self-imposed ignorance. Right.
Yeah.
They are choosing ignorance. They are choosing to ignore facts. Right. So calling them ignorant and stupid is not a bad point to point out to the people who are looking at the Nazis.
To people who are not yet Nazis themselves.
Correct.
I got it. Okay.
Yeah. That may be Nazi curious, you know, but yeah.
Jesus. Yeah. Fair. But I am going to go back to my other point because I do think it's valid. I do think a lot of this on so many of these songs is
preaching to the choir.
Yeah. And I don't even think they realize they're doing it. And I'm going to be fair to I'm going to throw myself in this. And I think I did this a lot back in the day, is like, it's, you know, they talk about virtue signaling. In some ways, this is like Christian virtue signaling, right? Like, I'm putting myself out there. Oh, these people don't want to accept Jesus, but I'm willing to go out there every day and minister to them, witness to, like, that kind of thing, right? Where
interesting, yeah.
They may not even realize it, but deep down, it's more about like patting yourself on the back and looking good that you're trying to do the right thing.
Looking good to the people who are already like you, yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
That's a really good point. I like that point too, yeah.
But so just to get into this a little more, like, I'm curious, like, was this a thing they ever really ran into? Like,
oh, yeah.
I never ran into, like, Nazi punks, but I assume so, because I don't think, why else would they know about Sieg Heil? Like, this is pre-internet, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know why else they would know about that kind of stuff. And here's the rub for me on this. Like, we're recording this just actually 1 week after the 2024 presidential election.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't help but think about that as we like go through this album, just because it's kind of in my mind. And and when I look at like Chad Wiggins, the singer, his Facebook page, it's clear he's a Trump supporter. And it makes me wonder if they'd still sing this song about all the neo-Nazis who support Trump. And let me be clear. I don't think everyone who supports Trump is a neo-Nazi. I want to be very clear about that. Like Clifton and I have family members who support and voted for him, and we certainly don't think that about them.
They're not Nazis.
Right.
They are white supremacist.
Okay. Okay. But what my point is, I'm not throwing that out there, but what I'm wondering is this song in 2024 versus this song in 1997. Like in 1997, this seemed really far away, something obscure, something I'd certainly never seen.
I think that has more to do with the sheltered lives that we lived.
That is fair too, but I also think it wasn't as prominent. I hope. But in 2024, it's more real. Like just a day after the election, I don't know if you saw this, Clifton, but text messages were sent out to Black Americans all over the country saying all kinds of racist things about slaves and picking cotton, etc. I have a link in the notes to this if anybody thinks I'm making this up. No, this is from the BBC. There's other news stations that covered this. And like after Charlottesville, the rise of neo-Nazi groups across the country and them being much more open and marching through cities, etc. Like, would Christians today sing this song? I'm just not sure, to be really honest with you.
I think they would, but you've already nailed the reason why.
I see.
Virtue signaling.
Interesting.
Yeah. They're not going to fight for this song. At least not white evangelical Christians.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're not going to go out of their way by any means.
Mm-hmm.
But they would virtue signal, yes. Yeah.
That's a great point.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And I want to go back for a second and support my contention that our relatives who voted for Trump are white supremacists.
Okay.
Anyone who voted for Trump is a white supremacist. Because you have chosen to reinforce all of the systems that are fundamentally white supremacist, right? All the systems that in our country that make it easier to be a white person, you voted to double down on those systems. The vote for Trump was a doubling down on those systems. The vote for Trump was a choice to not move away from those systems and from that kind of thinking, right? So even if you think that you are not a white supremacist, you are. Because you chose to reinforce and to double down and to back up and to continue those systems.
And this is why Clifton is not invited for Thanksgiving. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm fine with that. Yeah. All right. I think we're going to get back to this topic in a minute.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, everybody.
And in order to do that, we have to move forward into track 3, JCHC.
Yeah. So this one, it starts with drums and the guitar bass comes in, but the guitar is playing kind of a lead in this. First time we've heard that in this album. And I will say this is basically like if there was a single, which I'm sure there wasn't, but if there was a single for this album, this would be it. And this is a song that like, you pull it up on Spotify, it's the top one. Clifton knew this song. This was like their big song. Was
it on like a comp or anything?
I don't know. Maybe. I know I tried to look into, YouTube, and there is a video of them playing at Cornerstone 2001. Oh, so really? Years later, and they still finish with this song. It's actually kind of fun. Like tons of people crowd the stage with them and singing it and stuff. And so clearly like it is their big song. And I will say it is a good song. And there's some weird stuff on this that I don't think should work, but actually works musically for some reason. So whatever, they figured it out.
definition of our hardcore. We don't need drugs or pills. Christian punks, we won't live. Jesus Christ, hardcore. Jesus Christ, hardcore, kick Satan in the face.
Okay, so we probably weren't timing it, but vocals don't come in till 27 seconds, which for this type of album, it's a long time to wait, right? I think this is another example of like just throwing in some background vocals and stuff really makes it stronger. So like after each like line of the verse, that JCHC with the
Really
background
works.
vocal really helps it, like really good. And then the part that I think should not work, but works really well is that chorus, because it's like, it's almost like they couldn't think of anything. So they're just like, Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ.
But that weird, like, works. I think it only works because of the like shouted background vocals after it, like kind of the gang vocals, but it works. I don't know why, but it does.
This is, exact. Gang vocals is the right word, because this is a song that takes advantage of gang vocals, because it makes it feel like the whole crowd is screaming along.
Yep.
Yeah. Which is probably what happened live, I assume,
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, like it's already, I think, into the first verse and into the chorus, you're like, oh, okay, this is pretty good. And then honestly, I gotta be honest, it gets better and they close it out really, really well. Like they do a really good job on this. You've got a little bit of guitar solos in here. You get like, I don't know what to call it, Clifton, almost like 2 bridges or something. I don't know if I dissected the song correctly with saying that, but and then the ending is the best part, for sure. But
yeah, there's this part here, which may be a bridge, I don't know, but it's well, you'll hear.
Sick and tired of worldly views, sick and tired of things of you, sick and tired of compromise, sick and tired of all of life.
I think that works really well. Sick and tired, blah, 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 sick and tired, like that. It's angry punk music, and I think sick and tired works well for punk, right?
yeah, it's true.
Because like, especially sick and tired, like that, the consonants there work well, it almost feels German, just like the way you're able to stop in those consonants, I think it works really well in the word choice there.
Yeah, it's one of those weird places where the lyrics fit with kind of the motion of the song. Yeah, you're right. It fits really, really well.
And then this is the other part that happens at the end.
I love when songs build like that, when there's like a payoff for hanging on until the end. And this song, no complaints, like all the way through, it's good, like sonically, but then you get to that last part and they do so well with that, like just bravo, like it's really good.
I think the key here is like they've instilled meaning into JCHC earlier in the song, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we come in, we do this kind of thing where it's like a little bit down here, a little bit down here, a little bit down here, then a bit right here, and a bit right here, and a bit right here, kind of like they do in musicals. But it's really great in the punk because it's the JCHC, and then they JCHC, I think it works well. It builds, and then you add the background vocals there. You're right. The whole thing is great.
Yeah. It's a fun song. It's still fun to listen to. The lyrics I have a lot of problems with, but I love the sound of it for sure.
Agreed. Well, let's dig into these lyrics here. I guess I'll give these ones a read. Living for Christ is what we do. I want to put a pin in that to come back to on the next song.
Okay.
Living for Christ is what we do. That's the definition of our hardcore. We don't need drugs or booze. Christian punks, we won't lose. Jesus Christ hardcore. Kick Satan in the face with our steel-toed boots. We are in the army of God with salvation as our roots. We all stand together, unified by Jesus Christ, defeating Satan's spew with the word of Jesus Christ. Sick and tired of worldly views, sick and tired of Satan's abuse, sick and tired of compromise, sick and tired of all his lies.
Whew.
Yeah.
So that first verse, right?
Yes.
Basically, that hardcore means we don't need drugs or booze. Christian punks, we won't lose. Like, it seems like living for Christ is all about abstaining.
Yes.
Like, again, there's so much of that in this album, but it's never about like
Right.
love or joy or peace or any one of those. It's always just about we don't do these things. We're not like you.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. You're. It's asceticism. What's the word I'm looking for here?
Asceticism. Is that the
Yeah,
right?
like
Am I
monks.
saying it right? Yeah. I think that's right.
Yeah. All right.
Somebody correct us if not. Yeah. It's just like I don't do these things. I'm better than you, kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
And this
And that's
is
what makes
very,
me holier. Yeah.
And this is a very much preaching to the like choir song.
Oh,
in fact, almost more than anything else, which is probably why I fucking liked it so much back in the day.
Yeah.
Because again, musically it's great, but I'm sure lyrically it's also like, yeah, that's me. Like,
True. You know, and you can make the argument of, well, we don't need booze or drugs because life in Jesus is just so much richer than life without Jesus. But that's not something they ever say.
right, exactly. I
It's not
agree.
anywhere on the album, by the way. It's not a point they ever make.
I agree. You could say that, but they don't ever say that.
Yeah. That's not their point here.
Yeah.
It just seems to be asceticism, you know, just being without.
Yeah.
And then the second verse, go ahead.
I mean, I know you've already read it, but sorry. Kick Satan in the face with our steel-toe boots. We're in the army of God with salvation as our roots. I mean, in some ways, this is like Carmen,
Yeah.
essentially, who we just did that episode on with Satan Bite the Dust. I mean, even the title of it, it's the same type of thinking. And like, kind of the thing that gets me is just how militant this was. Like, militant Christianity. And again, this is 1997, and we're unfortunately still dealing with the repercussions of it now. It feels like this kind of like macho type of Christianity. Like, it doesn't lead to good places usually. This is, again, not love your neighbor as yourself. This is like,
Correct.
oh, you're demonic. You're Satan's controlling you. I'm going to get rid of you.
Key. And we're going to build on that in a second.
Yeah.
Keep going.
I mean, the only other thing I wanted to talk about was like defeating Satan's spew. I mean, it just feels like that attitude can quickly turn towards people, because what else would Satan's spew be? And so again, this is not like love the world. This is like onward Christian soldiers, but for punks.
Yeah.
And that, like, that is worrisome. There's no compromise. You're always right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to take a detour here and look at a way that this gets applied in real life. This defeating Satan's spew, right? Because you can start off with, I just mean the lies. I just mean the bad things, the lies that Satan pushes, you know. Enter, and I'm going to use Alex Jones as an example because that's what I know. And so here's how Alex Jones can take you from that to radicalizing you into a white supremacist who wants to kill everybody. Okay? You start off with I just mean the lies. I just mean we're going to defeat the lies. But then you're like, oh, the Democrats, they're pushing the lies of Satan. And then you do that for a while, and then you're like, oh, the Democrats, they're still pushing the lies of Satan. I guess they've internalized the lies of Satan, you know? Well, but also maybe they're like they've chosen this now. You know, this is just who they are. They've become one with the lies of Satan. They are in league with Satan. They are Satan themselves. They might as well be Satan. We need to defeat them, and they might as well be Satan. Oh, they pretty much are Satan. They're holding hands with Satan. You know what we can't do? We can't compromise with Satan. You know, maybe we need to take a little Second Amendment action on them.
Yeah. And it doesn't even have to be Alex Jones. I think anytime.
No, I'm just using him as an example.
Anytime you spend so much time worried about like the other side and focus so much on what they're doing and how it's wrong, it can't help but just kind of like infect your brain and make you kind of like you're not viewing them anymore as like someone who just has different opinions than you, but like still deserves a place in this world and still deserves love and all that. It's, you know, it's no, they're wrong, they're evil, they must be stopped at all costs. And here we go.
And it's a surprisingly short trip to All Out War, because you can spend, you know, and when I say surprisingly short trip, you know, I can get you there in an hour, but what if I spent years doing this, like making it part of who you are, you know, that you can't even vote for someone who isn't like you know, because like you can't even imagine what that means, you know. So it's so part of who you are to vote one way. And this, I'm just saying vote here, like, but it could be anything, you know. Yeah. And we talk about, once again, we talk about this all the time, because of this such negative conception of Christianity, like you said, that lives in this fear, that lives in fear of sin, that lives in fear of messing up, that lives in fear of taking your eyes off Jesus. When you root yourself in that fear, you live by fear. And when you live by fear, you will live in hate. And you will live defeating the Satan's spew, no matter who that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
And that's how you end up with trans people being cast as these comically heinous villains. How do we get here? How did we get here, y'all? Trans people, you know, here's the thing. Any one of you who are like, I just can't stand the identity politics of the left, I have a message for you. Fuck you. The left doesn't care about identity politics. You know what we care about? We care about people. The only reason we're involved in identity politics is because you other people are attacking those people and want to make them into villains.
Yeah.
Or want to victimize those people. Those people didn't ask for your attention. All they want is to be treated like everyone else.
Yep.
That's all I got.
No, I think that's right. I mean, can you imagine how incredibly hard it is to be trans in this world? Why in God's earth would you just like, they're not choosing that to piss you off, people.
No.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
can you imagine being trans and being like, oh, like, you think this is a choice? Like, no.
Right.
Here's the thing. You know why I personally support trans rights? Because people who feel like that as people want to kill themselves, and then when you treat them like to the people who they think they are, they no longer want to kill themselves. That's all I need.
Yeah. And also, like, I want to be treated in the way that for who I think I am. I want you to treat me that way. I want them to be treated that way. Like, Jesus Christ, who the fuck cares? Like,
did someone say something like that?
What do you mean?
I feel like there was some religious preacher who said something about treating other people in a certain way. like maybe even internalizing it yourself and then turning that around.
Oh, yeah.
I can't think of it. Shit.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I know. It's like we've gotten that far. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, shall
All
we
right,
go to the next song? It's called
let's
Us
do
and
it.
Them.
Us and Them. Separate. Different.
Uh-huh.
Track 9. Us and Them.
This is one that at first I thought, oh, this song is not as fast, and then about 14 seconds in, it speeds up, and so we get a little speed up, slow down on this song. I actually don't think there's a bridge on this one, so
It's hard to say.
Yeah.
Look, this is. I thought we were going to hear more of this when we started this album.
Okay, this is what you thought we'd hear.
Yes, and also I thought that like it would end halfway through the song because it doesn't have anything else to offer. Yeah,
Fair. I more picked this one because I wanted the title and I wanted to talk about the lyrics.
Okay. But let's listen to the song because I think this is what you're going to hear here is that first off, there's this way too long of intro, and we'll listen to it. But then they quickly go like, I gave up on like what's a verse and what's a chorus, but I think that what it does is it goes like, whatever you want to call them, verse, chorus, bridge, or you want to call them just part 1, part 2, part 3. It goes verse, chorus, bridge, break. Verse, chorus, bridge, break. Like that. What is that? Dun, 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 dun. That's a Kinks song.
Okay. I was like, sure, it's been played by hundreds of other bands. Yeah. Oh, shit. No. Is that the Doors? Hello, I love you. Won't you tell me your name?
Oh, that's what it is. Yeah. I think it's also a Kinks song, though.
Maybe that is, yeah.
All right.
Sticking together, that's what we do. We are good children, nothing to lose. When we fall, help is there. Nothing else can compare. Politicians, media, feeding us their lies. Self-profiting organization, green us in their eyes. Getting us hooked, the violence and rage. While they're receiving outrageous wage.
I think I was thinking about the next song when I said the verse, chorus, bridge thing. But this is a good one. I do like the where it's like da 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 slow, and then between the verses a da 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 da.
Yeah, and this is one I like his vocals on this. He probably overdoes it a little too much at places, but
Yeah.
with like nothing to lose, like he really and he does lies the same way. Like he kind of just
Yeah.
really overdoes it.
Very Sex
parts?
Pistols.
Yeah, and it's fun. Like I appreciate the little extra emphasis on stuff in this. So
Agreed.
Yeah.
Any part of this that you want to specifically pay attention to?
I liked where, I guess it's probably right. Yeah, right about where you stop, where he says, "Will they program us another day?" And then at about 55 seconds, and then a little bit after that. But no, there's nothing like amazing musically on this song.
All right, let's listen through the end of this verse and the end of the chorus.
It's enraged while they're receiving outrageous wage. In my kids today, what else will they say when they program us another way? Oh, will they program us another day? Oh, will they program us another way? Oh, will they program us another day? Turn on the TV.
Same pattern, basically just repeating it, but with background vocals. And again, somehow that kind of works.
Yeah, but yeah, I think, and it does work because of the vocals, that overdone Sex Pistols thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I want to go back to the beginning here for a second and listen. This is one of the places where the guitar tone feels, and I think this is the way it is on the album. I had a hard time I rip. Shit, I can't remember if I ripped this from the CD or if I downloaded this from
The Bandcamp.
Bandcamp. I forget. But listen to how like the other parts in the album that don't sound like this, but like listen to how like electronic, like it almost feels like it's been compressed too much. See what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. And you could achieve that same thing with maybe like a flanger set really slow. You know, I don't know why you would. I think it's gross sounding, but yeah.
I did like how the bass came in at the beginning of the song
Yes.
too. We didn't talk about that, but that was a nice little thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's get into these lyrics.
All right, I'll read these. You ready?
Yes.
Sticking together, that's what we do. We
Wait.
are God's
Remember on the last song what they did? Living for Christ is what we do.
Oh shit.
Now they're sticking together is what we do. Sorry.
We are God's children with nothing to lose. When you fall, help is there. Nothing else can compare. Politicians, media feeding us their lies. Self-profiting organizations, greed is in their eyes, getting us hooked. Violence and rage while they are receiving their outrageous wage. Evil kids today, what else will they say when they program us another way? Will they program us another day? Turn on the TV, what do you see? Turn on the radio, what do you hear? Kids in rebellion, going anarchy, LAPD in riot gear. Parents not knowing what to do, sending kids to shrinks, talking to Dr. Fu, telling him about their lives, trying to get inside, when all you have to do is pray to the Most High.
So this is an interesting one.
Uh-huh.
Once again, I think I can almost say that the first-ish part, maybe the middle part of this song, I'm on board with.
Okay.
All the way from politicians and media feeding us lies, self-profiting organizations, greed in their eyes, all the way through kids in rebellion, going anarchy, LAPD, and riot gear.
Okay. All right.
I think I'm going to bore with most of that, you know?
Okay. Fair.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the self-profiting organizations, greed in their eyes, getting us hooked, violence and rage, while they are receiving their outrageous wage.
Fair. Okay.
You know,
fair.
If what they're saying there is, hey, these media organizations are promoting stupid things for us to fight about so that we'll be distracted from the fact that they're concentrating all the wealth in the hands of a few, I agree with that. That is what's going on then, and that's what's going on now. It's worse now.
Absolutely.
And then you end up with, you know, evil kids today. What else will they say? They program us another way. I agree with that. Like the kids are a result of the society that they're born into. We didn't create the society. We were just born into it, you fuckers. You know, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I can agree with that. And then especially here at the end, this kids in rebellion going anarchy, LAPD, and riot gear, where, yeah, when the power structure doesn't understand what's happening underneath it and people start rejecting it, they're going to go fascist. They're going to bring violence upon the people who are rejecting their concept of what we should be fighting over, instead of asking them while they're hoarding all the resources of society.
Yeah, that's true. So you're in
Now,
agreement with this song?
Well, the middle part. I don't know if I'm the we are God's children with nothing to lose. When you fall, help is there. Nothing else can compare. Once again, I don't know what that has to do with the rest of the song. You know?
Yeah.
Sticking together is what we do. I kind of like that. Sticking together is what we do. Right.
Okay. Well, he
Go ahead and
gives
talk
kind of
about
the
the
answer at the end of the song, Clifton.
Yeah,
I mean,
it does. It's all our problems can be solved by doing one thing. Go ahead, Jay.
uh-huh. I mean, he says it in the last two lines, right?
Yeah.
All you have to do is pray to the Most High.
Done.
Yeah.
Problem solved.
So to be clear,
Kumbaya, my lord. Kumbaya.
here's who we can't trust in this song. Organizations, politicians, media, radio, TV, shrinks, and doctors. Can trust God.
Yes. Yes.
And I agree with what you're saying about the middle part of the song and how you could agree with him on this. But I do worry about the whole like politicians, media feeding us their lies. Like I can definitely
Sure.
see how that's been like where that got us today. Not
Well,
that
it's
I
been
think
taken-
again we
it's
need to
been-
believe everything they say either, but yeah.
Right. It's kind of like, so one of my, to go back to Alex Jones, one of my problems with Alex Jones and his ilk is that they take a real problem and then they twist it so that you're also confused about that.
Yep.
Right. For example, politicians lie. That's true. Okay. Here's what's not true. All politicians lie.
Yeah.
Both sides are the same. Those are not true. Okay. So they take a little thing that is true and then they confuse it such that you can't solve the problem. Such as, for example, for some reason, the right has become really obsessed with pedophiles. Okay. And so they call everyone they don't like a pedophile first. And then they start seeing pedophiles everywhere. But you know where they don't see pedophiles? Where they
The
actually
church.
are.
Yeah. Right.
So even though every day I open the news and I see another pastor who has been busted for child abuse or molestation or kiddie porn or something like that, that's never the topic. We're never talking about that. We're always talking about how definitely Hillary Clinton's a pedophile, right? So we take a thing that's true, that is a problem, like human trafficking also, but they obfuscate it so much that it's no longer, it's hard to talk about it in a realistic way.
Yeah.
And I think they do that because, remember what I said up here about they keep us distracted with stupid things to fight over so that we don't notice that they're concentrating all the resources of society into a few hands? That's what they're doing.
Yep. Bingo.
Yeah. Plus, they also make it harder to solve those problems themselves
Right.
because there are pedophiles
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely.
and there is human trafficking. It is not human trafficking is not being done over overstock.com, and Hillary Clinton isn't the pedophile.
Yeah, and there's not a basement at Comet Ping Pong.
Right.
Comet Ping Pong. Like, right. And yeah, it's, yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot
then-
about overstock.com.
You have to kind of be deep into QAnon lore to get that one.
Forgot about that one.
For those not in the know, there was a conspiracy theory for a while that you could go to overstock.com and order some of the larger furniture, which is priced high, like $10,000, $20,000, because it's very nice furniture. And it's called like the Amanda or something like that. Well, that's how you know that you're ordering a young girl. It was yeah, anyways.
So stupid.
But don't worry, Trump's going to solve it. Trump has already there's tunnels under Washington D.C., but Trump knows where they all are. And when he gets back, he's just going to march through there and be like, "You're arrested, and you're arrested," and then everyone's going to be in Guantanamo, and all the Democrats are going to be hanged, and everything's going to be okay. And that's what it feels like to listen to Alex Jones, except for
Yep.
all the boring parts.
Yeah.
So I want to get back to the song. Sending kids, so parents not knowing what to do, sending kids to shrink, talking to Dr. Fu. This is actually a good point too. Because yes, when we're fighting over stupid things, we don't know what to do because we're looking for the answer to the wrong question.
Okay.
Okay. So there's been a lot of talk lately about there being a mental health crisis in the nation. But there's probably not. It's just that, once again, all the resources have been concentrated into the hands of a few people. So the rest of us don't have enough resources to go around to actually live on, which means that we're all fighting these against each other to pay our fucking rent. That's not a mental health issue. That's a societal issue, right?
Yeah.
Not being able to pay your rent is not a mental health issue. It is a societal issue. Being obsessed with pedophiles around every corner is not a mental health issue. It is a societal issue. Looking everywhere for answers because you're asking the wrong questions is, once again, a societal issue. It's not a mental health issue. The problem here isn't talking to Dr. Fu. The problem is that you're addressing the wrong situation.
Yeah. There's a book called Capitalist Realism by a guy named Mark Fisher, and I'm going to really butcher it, but it kind of makes me think of what you're thinking. Is that like, hey, maybe a lot of these mental health things and things we're dealing with are actually like not results of that, but just results of fucking living under capitalism and what it's doing to everyone. So yeah, maybe we're looking at the wrong thing.
Yeah. It's a result of working 60 hours a week and barely being able to eat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because the resources of society have been concentrated into a few hands and it's not being shared around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to explore it a little more, I Googled it because I was like, I've read this, but it's been a while, but I'm just looking at the Wikipedia quote for it. It says, it's a widespread sense that not only is capitalism the only viable political and economic system, but that it is now impossible even to imagine a coherent alternative to it. Like, you just can't think of anything but the system we're living under. And so because of that, like, it's just kind of crushing, and we get there. Anyway, I'm getting off track, but yes.
But no, it also comes down to a big, in philosophy, it's the is versus ought. Is does not equal ought, right? Just because something is doesn't mean it's the way it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point.
All right, let's go on to track 10. Satan's Gonna Lose.
We kind of have like a lead guitar to start this, and then we have this full band and screaming, Jesus! So this is a fast song. It's kind of more screaming than the other songs, but anyway, kind of fun.
Again, and this is the one I was
thinking. So much.
This is the one I was thinking of when I said that it gets like verse, chorus, bridge, break, verse, chorus, bridge, break, something like that.
Yeah, this is also another song that's kind of more maybe what you think the album would be like, because it's pretty fast, pretty screamy, just boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Now, earlier you talked about how you wish he'd screamed a little longer. I thought the way he screamed out Jesus at the beginning of this was just the right length. That was good. Yeah.
I agree. Yes. More of that.
Yeah, fair. Now, it was a really nice start with the vocals there, for sure.
Yeah. I think this just kind of repeats itself again a few times, but there's some more good Jesus yelling here, I think. Here's the part where we get to the rest of the lyrics, at least.
I am a child of God, and He loves you.
I think if the song had been only the parts we played, it would have been a better song. Leave out that whole middle part that we didn't play.
Probably fair. Yeah. Should we do the lyrics?
Yeah, they're short.
All right.
Is it my turn?
Yeah.
All right. Jesus, come to me. I need your help. Satan's attacking me. I hate Satan. I hate Satan. I love Jesus. I love Jesus. I will stand and begin to fight. The enemy of my Lord. Satan, you won't get my friends or family. Satan, you won't get me. With the sword of the Spirit, I will chop your head off. I am a child of God and he loves me.
So now it sounds funny when you read it, but however, I can actually imagine back in the day this like first line, like Jesus, come to me, I need your help. Satan's attacking me.
Yeah,
And-
like I saw a girl and she was hot.
Yeah, exactly. And so now I feel like I'm under attack, which is actually just normal human hormones and things. But anyway, and the thing is, like, this is really kind of militant, and this like,
Oh no, you don't say.
this can sound good. Like if you're struggling with something and you view it as an attack from Satan, puffing yourself up and being macho can seem like a temporary victory. But most
Mhm.
likely it's not going to last. And then you'll just
Yeah.
blame yourself later for being weak or lack of faith,
Mhm.
etc. So like
Mhm.
this is just going to lead to the cycle of you just feeling worse and worse about yourself.
Jay, you ever watch a nature documentary and like there's a bird that's like skittering around on the forest floor, you know, and then all of a sudden like there's a snake and the bird like puffs up its feathers and it spreads its wing and it's like, oh, it makes itself bigger and scary. And it's like, ah, ah, ah. That's what this song is.
Okay. I like fair.
That's all I got to say about it. It's just that machoism is a good way to say it, but the other way to say it is lizard brain.
Yeah, fair. Okay. The one other part I want to talk about, and you read it, with the sword of the Spirit, I will chop your head off.
Yeah, like those Muslim videos.
Yeah, like, I do worry about how this type of stuff gets normalized and accepted. Like, if you talk this way about demons, etc., like, it's not too far of a leap.
And then you're
before
pretty
you
sure
start
that person has a demon in them.
Right,
What's the difference
exactly.
eventually?
It's not too far of a leap before you start saying this about other human beings. And like, did Jesus ever say stuff like this? No.
He cursed a fig tree.
That's true. And the most aggressive he ever got was with money changers, capitalists
Mhm.
in the temple. Like,
Well, capitalists, merchants.
okay, yeah, but come on, Clifton, let me have my thing.
No, I want to draw a line. There is a difference between capitalism and an open market where trade happens.
Okay,
Trade
fair.
is not capitalism. Capitalism is the idea that owning things like land or machines is more valuable than labor.
You're right, but these people were screwing other people over. Yes.
Yes. Through being merchants. And the real problem was that they were probably overcharging and that they were doing it in the fucking temple.
Yes.
So they made the temple into something it wasn't supposed to be. The temple was supposed to be about communing with God and having an experience with God, but it became about purchasing something so that you could have it killed.
But Jesus also hates capitalism.
Probably.
No, anyway, you're right.
Yeah. Is that all?
We're probably going to lose a lot of listeners after this album. But this
Goodbye.
episode, but anyway.
All right. Track 15, Dead to the World. We don't do this for you. We do this for us.
Is well, pretty much true. This is the title track. We kind of get that drum click started off. Full band comes in. It's a little bit of slower tempo. We do wait about 19 seconds for the vocals, so it's a little bit of a longer song, you know.
Yeah, on this one I actually said 0-0 guitar riff, 0-12 another guitar riff.
I know. Before those vocals come in. This is not like nothing amazingly special, but I just thought it was a title track. We should include it. It's the last song on the
Yeah.
album, how they choose to go out on this.
That's fun.
Yeah. Speed up on the chorus. You know,
Yeah.
it's not bad.
I like the chain to the world. Yeah. Even as a
And,
non-Christian, I can appreciate that.
At like about 1:15, we got a bridge, and we says "Dead to the world, not strangers anymore," which is kind of a fun little part.
Dead to the world, not slaves anymore. Dead to the world, God we're living for. Dead to the world, not slaves anymore. Dead to the world, don't be sick and joy. Dead to the world, not slaves anymore. Dead to the world, God we're living for. Dead to the world, not slaves anymore. Dead to the world, don't be sick and joy.
I like the drumming there in that. That's very good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's fine.
Yeah. I think it's a good song. I mean, there's not a lot to say about it because it just, it's pretty standard punk rock stuff, but it's good punk rock stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need to look at the lyrics on this one?
Oh yeah.
Or is it just
Come on.
more fear mongering about taking your eyes off God?
This is also like, again, kind of preaching to the choir type stuff,
Yeah.
but I'll read them for you.
Okay.
Rejected by you for what we believe, this world is a lie and you cannot see. The truth that we speak, you don't want to hear. You live for your world, you don't really care. Chained to the world. We've been there before, a slave to this world. We followed the lies and the truth we ignored. Our chains have been broken and we see what for. Now we have freedom because we were dead to this world. Dead to the world. Dead to the world, not slaves. Dead to the world, God we're living for. Oh, I think it's back. Anyway, I got it wrong. Dead to the world, not slaves anymore. Dead to the world, God we're living for. Dead to the world, don't be Satan's whore. Ooh, that was kind of risky back in the day. I'm alive because I have died to this world. I'll survive the end of time with my Lord.
Cool.
And again, it's like the world is evil, but I'm okay because I've died to it and I live with Jesus. Like, what the hell does this even mean? Just more abstaining from stuff? Because again, it certainly doesn't mean loving people more.
You're right about that. I was somewhere else in my head, and that you're 100% right about that.
Like, it's just so weird. Like, and I think that's what's funny, Clifton, is like back in the day, listening to this, me like, yeah, and really just like, I'm JCHC, yeah, and like being all on board with these lyrics, and now going back and being like, you're talking about Jesus, but like I don't see a lot of Jesus in this. Like, what in the world? And just seeing again how much of it is like virtue signaling, kind of showing like, oh, I'm in the in group, I'm doing the right thing, and I'm saying this song is for those non-believers, but no one is ever going to change because they hear this.
No, you're right. So the reason I laughed there is because I was actually about to give this a somewhat charitable interpretation.
Oh.
I mean, it's still, I reject it completely, but I was going to give it a, so here's what I'm thinking, okay? The world is a chaotic place. There's too much in it. The way different people handle things is not always for me. The way different people approach the world is not always for me. And life is a lot simpler when I don't feel the need to engage the world in the terms that it is maybe demanding that I engage it on.
Okay.
And if you can look at Christianity and say that they're just engaging it on the terms that they're capable of engaging the world on, it's fine. Me too.
Okay.
You know, I don't think it's going to happen. I'm not going to survive the end of time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Jay, what do you think overall?
I mean, okay. A couple things. Like, recording quality is better than I thought it was going to be. It's not amazing, don't get me wrong, but like, it's not awful.
Right.
It's fine for what it is. I actually think they're better songwriters than I kind of anticipated going back through it, like with the song structure and some of the stuff they've written out. Like, it's not bad, especially for this style, this old school punk type thing. It's really not bad. Lyrically, oh boy, like, yeah, it's real bad, and also like helps me understand how we got to where we got to today.
Yeah.
More with this, and in some ways we've talked about this before, but just to bring it up again, is like, this was like, you know, alternative Christian punk, right? But the actual stuff they're saying is not alternative at all. I mean, this is like definitely just mainstream. In fact, maybe worse than mainstream evangelical like beliefs. I mean, again, this is trying to get into Christian nationalism stuff even before we really had that term.
Which is something that we've hit on over and over again with hardcore stuff.
Yeah, I know.
And I'm going to sound like a crazy person, but maybe Three Crosses is more thoughtful than this.
Oh, fuck.
No, I'm just saying that my point being that this is very like, it's very sure of itself. You know, it's not contemplative. It's not, you know, there's other things that we've listened to that have been more artistic, that have been, you know, I think like you said, this is this is alternative. It's Christian, but it's punk, you know, and so you think that they'd be blazing their own path, but they're not. You know, they're not at all. There's not consideration here. Plank Eye and other things like that have been more introspective and considered, you know, than what this is, and honestly what most of the hardcore stuff that we've listened to is.
Yeah, you're totally right.
Yeah. I agree with you, though, that it's better than I thought it was going to be.
Okay,
but
that's something.
But I still don't feel like I missed out on anything.
Yeah, and you didn't.
Yeah. But I can see why people like it.
Yeah, that's fair, right?
I mean, it's fun. I had fun. What was that topic we were going to come back to?
Oh, God, I don't know.
Shit.
Well, we'll see if we think of it before this is over.
All right.
Can we talk about the artwork and the packaging? What did you think of the artwork, first of all, on the cover, Clifton? I'm curious your take.
It gets the point across.
That is fair.
Like,
it's very
you are
punk.
not going to look at this and be confused about what it is.
That is true.
And so for those of you who don't have it in front of you or haven't seen this before, it's basically the picture of the grill cloth on like an amp or something like that. And it has officer negative painted on it. But in the center is a big, like, it looks sort of like an anarchy symbol, but it's O with an N through it instead of an A through it. But then there's still the cross in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Like the anarchy symbol has all the way through, that goes beyond the edges of the circle.
Yep. Yeah. And then the way officer negative's written around it is just like crammed in. Like it does.
I feel like scrawled is the best word for it.
Right. It just really doesn't fit. But yeah, and I think it's definitely one of their amps because I had to look up. I'm sure you knew this.
Yeah, it's Woodson.
Like, Woodson, yeah. I mean, it's fine. It's very punk. It's funny. And the inside is like, tries to be punk too. Like they clearly type these lyrics out, but then cut them out. So it's white kind of cut out on a black background.
If it wasn't a black background, if it was something more found, does that make sense? Like found art kind of thing?
Yeah.
And not just a simple black background, I think it would work better.
And they've got drawings that clearly they've probably done for some of their show flyers of them. Yeah. It's like punks. I mean, one, it's got, oh God, I just now noticed that. It's got like somebody with an officer negative shirt on and a mohawk with a sword of the spirit. I just now see it his hand cutting off, I guess, Satan's head.
Yep.
Oh boy.
Yep. That's what that is.
And then you've also got
a swastika with an X through it.
Yeah, there's like a bunch of those, like you know, like kind of a marked through swastika. You've also got one where they're like, what is that? What is that
Which one?
imitating? Is it Iwo Jima or whatever, where the American soldiers are putting the flag up on the hill, and you've got that one with the punk
Oh.
JCHC flag
Yeah.
trying to plant it into the ground.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's just like, honestly, it looks like doodles that we would all do in like our notebooks in high school, you know, when you're supposed to be paying attention to the teacher and you're just drawing shit. That looks exactly what a lot of this is.
Yeah.
But then one thing I want to talk about is what is up with the whole like anti-abortion insert for one whole page of this?
Wait, what page is that on?
Oh, you'll get to it.
Oh, the hidden Holocaust. You be the judge.
Yeah, it's like they literally just took like a little anti-abortion flyer or track and like cut it up so that it would fit on the page. And then it's somehow connected this to Holocaust because it's got Jews are parasites, Jews are subhuman, something since from 1936. Oh, I see. It's got that paralleled with 1973 saying unborn babies are subhuman. Unborn babies are a mass. Unborn babies are parasites. I see. They changed the words, but they couldn't change reality. The Holocaust.
But this isn't someone. This isn't written by someone supporting this. This is written by someone who's trying to have a parallel between these two.
Yeah. It said the Holocaust killed 6 million Jews and a nation kept silent, but it can never happen again, or can it? You be the judge.
This is very interesting. So they have pictures here of a fetus over time.
Yeah, and in 8 weeks, it's only feet.
This is wrong, by the way. But at least it's actually pictures of fetuses and not pictures of what Christians often do, which is they just put in like little scaled down babies and pretend like that's what fetuses look like.
Yeah.
But how does it go from feet at week 8 to a clump of cells at week 11?
Yeah, I know. That's what I mean. It's like,
Yeah,
maybe they got their order wrong when they were cutting and
Definitely.
pasting it.
yeah. There's no little toesy woesies at 8 weeks. All right, that's interesting. But yeah, they also there's another page where there's a KKK with an X through it and then a swastika with an X through it. And it has here a Bible verse, Acts 17:26 through 28. From one man he made every nation of men, that they should inhabit the whole earth. For in him we live and move and have our being. We are his offspring. I guess if that's what it takes for you to not be a bigot, that's fine.
Yeah, true. Okay, I'm
And
with
not
you on that.
just seeing other people as people.
And there's a picture of them on the back. And
Yeah.
it
I like
They're-
this.
definitely young, though. I mean, look at the
Yeah.
two on the right. Like, yeah.
Yeah. And remember, if you don't have, you can always look at on Discogs, of course, for the album art. But if you want to become a patron, we always upload high quality scans of the artwork when we can,
Yep.
which is almost always.
Yeah, we try to actually have these albums when we go through it. There's been
Yes.
one or two that we've had to cheat, but most of the time we have them.
Well, all right, Jay, what can you tell us about where they are today?
Okay, so after this album, they released Zombie Nation, their sophomore album on Screaming Giant in 1999, as well as 2 different live albums. And at this point, I think Screaming Giant was starting to have some financial difficulties, and there was also some difficulties with the band. I'm going to read you just from the Encyclopedia of Christian Music. It said their second album, Zombie Nation, was the first to gain any notice in the Christian market. It has a decidedly political slant to it, with the usual rants identifying modern America as a godless nation that faces impending judgment. Sounds familiar. Anyway, American Dream deals with the corruption of money, and Human Garbage Can focuses on abortion as evidence of society's moral decay. A song called New World Disordered features talk over vocals reminiscent of the Crucified. The title track, Zombie Nation, is about how, and this is a quote from Chad Wiggins, unbelievers are kind of like zombies in the way they seek out wealth and an artificial way of living. Jesus. The group had a dispute with their label, Screaming Giant, over the album because one song, Failure to Submit, was cut from the record against their wishes for undisclosed reasons, and Chad said, it is by far one of the best songs we've ever written. After completing Zombie Nation, Officer Negative announced that they were breaking up and released a farewell concert album. Wiggins later retracted the announcement, claiming the band would continue with personnel changes. So just to continue with that from Wikipedia, vocalist Chad Wiggins saw the reformation of the band as an opportunity to focus the band on ministry. With this lineup, they toured until about 2002, released an EP and an album. Their 2002 release, Control is an Illusion, had a sound based more on metal than punk. And then they rebranded themselves as the Death Campaign and signed to Solid State Records. In the summer of 2003, the band asked lead vocalist Chad Wiggins to leave, intending for Casey Weisenbaker to take vocals and hiring a different bass player. Within 3 months, though, the band broke up. But during this short time, they did record an album, which was released as Officer Negative Presents the Death Campaign. So they did have one album that came out on Solid State. It sounds very different than this. If you listen to it, it is much more metal, very heavy. Honestly, almost like a different
Posers
band from this. Yeah. So anyway, I can tell you a little bit more about the band members, though.
Okay.
During this time, Josh Handley did a side project called Zippy Josh and the Ragtag Band. He put out an album in 1999 on Screaming Giant, and he also did another EP in 2003. Michael Dragon pursued a career in professional skateboarding for a bit, and then has also been prolific in releasing music on YouTube and Bandcamp. Like, he's got quite a few followers on YouTube and is still putting out stuff all the time. Like, there's a ton of videos, so I have links to those. Chad Wiggins is, and this is just a quote from his LinkedIn, the co-founder and partner of Pulse One Technologies, a Ventura-based managed service provider. And I have exciting news. This summer, they announced that they're back together and hoping to play some shows soon. And we just learned a few weeks ago at Furnace Fest, they announced JCHC Fest, taking place on April 5th, 2025 in Southern California. And they've already got some of a lineup. They're going to be playing with No Innocent Victim, The Deal, Head Noise, and a bunch of other bands. And for more info, check out their Instagram on that.
All right. We'll have a link in the show notes there. Huh. Well, I'll be interested to see, did they play at Furnace Fest?
I don't think so, although somebody correct us if I'm wrong.
Okay. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they do with these songs all these years later. Cool.
I know.
Okay. Well, Jay, do you have an award for this album?
I'm going to call this the Preachy Punk Award because it is certainly that.
Yes. I definitely feel preached at after we've done this.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Well, I actually know what we're doing for our next episode, Clifton.
Oh, we have it. We have it in the bag?
Well, it's not in the bag, but I'm going to go ahead and say it for this. I'm going to like cast it into. I'm going to. What do they call it?
Put it on your vision board.
Yeah, there's another. I'm going to manifest it. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, same thing as vision board. Yeah.
So our next one, and it's actually episode 100, and it just worked out this way, but I think it's kind of perfect. Is an interview with Otto from Blaster, the Rocket Man / Rocket Boy. I hope if you're hearing this later and that's not what it is, because we couldn't get it to work out. But anyway, we're recording just a few days with him, so it should be good. So I'm very excited. I think it'll be really fun. It's been a while since we've done an interview episode, so
it has been.
Yeah.
I don't think we've done one in the entire last year.
Maybe not. So this will be good.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. And I guess we'll close this thing out.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Your Music Saved Us.
If you enjoyed your time with us, please leave us a review or share this episode. Visit patreon.com/YMSU to contribute and get extended episodes. Visit our website, yourmusicsavedus.com, to find out all the ways to listen. We're on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Join our Facebook group or follow us to keep up with the latest or interact with us. Send complaints and disagreements to yourmusicsavedus@gmail.com.
The music in this episode is the work of Officer Negative and is used with apologies, not permission. If you want to check out more of their stuff, they do have a website up, officernegative.com, and you can actually buy merch there, and they've got quite a few shirts and patches and buttons and other stuff, so go check it out.
Very nice. We'll have a link in the show notes, or you can just type it in with your little old fingers. Yeah, thanks everybody.
Thanks, y'all.